Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee and of course here's Milly.
Hi.
And joining us today we have Sophie.
Hey.
So today we are going to be discussing Wales Comic Con Telford Takeover 2022, the Saturday more specifically. So we don't know what happened on Sunday. There could have been, I don't know what could have happened, like a fire could have broken out, perishing millions. I don't know about that. We were there on Saturday, so that's what we're going to be discussing today. So Milly, you want to be the kind of what's the name? The MC? Not the MC. What do you call it? You're like the main presenter. So
Okay.
hit me with your best shot.
Okay, I feel like I'm put on the spot now. I'm scared. Okay.
Oh man.
So, I guess kind of there's loads to go into, right? Like from location to just how much there was to do there as well. Like there was tons of stalls and obviously meet and greet, which was just incredible. So I guess kind of first off, location wise, I'm so happy with where we were. Like, I don't know, like when Frank Welker was coming over, it was in Edinburgh, which is like I've driven to Edinburgh and it says continue 100 miles on the motorway. Like it's insane to try and get there. And obviously this was really nice. I feel like it kind of worked for everybody. So I was really happy kind of that quite a few people managed to make it, which was good.
Yeah, well, it could have been closer, obviously. So we're Preston, Lancashire. The Wales Comic Con wasn't in Wales, it was literally Telford. So it was like 2 hours away for us personally. And obviously it could have been closer, right? And I did feel very car sick, but I think that was your dad's fault more than
It was the sat nav's fault. It took him off the motorway.
no, but I felt it. And nerves, obviously, but I don't
I
know.
mean, it was ideal for you, right? You were like half an hour away.
Yeah, if that. So I was like pretty much on my doorstep. I mean, it was my first Comic-Con. So the fact that I didn't know what to expect, it was right on my doorstep. So it was like really easy to get to. But like you mentioned with Frank in Edinburgh, I was that close to going and doing like the 8-hour round trip in one day.
Oh,
so to do Grey, which was just down like 30 minutes down the road, was perfect.
yeah, it was perfect. And I guess kind of to have it in the international centre as well, somewhere I've never been. And I remember walking into the first room and just been like, okay, is this going to be it? Are we in this one small room? And then there was another one. And then there was another one. And then there was different studios for photos. I was like, okay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it. We should go at this point now that we've handled travel into, I guess, like the order that things happen. So queuing. I kind of want to touch on security because I feel like that's important to some people, right? Because I'll tell you what, and this is skipping ahead, but this is just why I want to focus on it. And I'll probably elaborate later, but I did not feel safe at the one we went to in Manchester.
No, okay, so the first Comic-Con we ever went to was for the Love of Horror. And just some of the cosplay weapons and stuff that were there were terrifying. JayBee left me to go to the toilet and I was scared.
Well, like obviously horror is going to be scarier, but I'm sure like the ghost faces that actually had genuine knives, like actual sharp, slice and dice some knives.
Massively scary. Even the costumes there were like freaking me out a little bit. So here, I don't know, it felt a lot more kind of light-hearted, I want to say. I guess you were touching on queuing and stuff like that as well. I feel like the insignificance there was the weather, and if you're doing something in the UK, you're gonna be cold.
Although I will say, thank goodness it wasn't raining, because I was meant to wear a hoodie. I felt confident enough to wear a t-shirt, and I paid for it the entire day. From one, not only looking chunky as hell in the photographs, but also queuing outside. It was so cold. That's my one piece of advice to anyone watching this, that maybe they've announced 2023 and everyone's like, oh, I wonder how it was. So if you're watching this, just have a coat.
It's the UK, always have a
big fur coat.
And I guess another thing was just like the vast quantity of people as well. Like we were so lucky because I got my brother's tickets. And he loves going to Comic-Cons. He does it all the time. So he'd made sure he got priority passes and stuff. So he got to go in an hour early. And when we arrived at 10, the people who weren't allowed until 11 were already halfway up the parking lot where like the queuing was. So it's kind of like I would have like imagine how cold you'd have been then.
Can I say something or can I ask something controversial?
Yeah.
Could I use my aneurysm for access?
No.
Okay. That was
Well,
just
you mentioned that you had like the 10 o'clock pass. I had the general entry. We got there about 11:15, but I only had to wait like an hour to get in, so it wasn't too bad. But it went really quick. I didn't even know it was an hour. When I looked at my watch, it's like 1 hour later. But it's interesting because the entertainment is seeing everybody dressed up, so it's like everyone coming down. It's like really fun to see what they were dressed up as.
It was like,
But
I know when we were in the queue, we were kind of like pointing at like, oh,
Yeah.
there's Captain America, there's Thor. Like, it was amazing.
yeah.
And I guess kind of it is worth talking about just the cosplays in themselves, because I do feel like here they were a lot kind like I said, kind of more lighthearted, certainly more recognizable as well. Like, I feel like perhaps the For the Love of Horror one, they were kind of more specific to things that we perhaps hadn't seen, whereas like here, obviously, you had an incredible Daphne outfit. We got to see
Deadpool with an infinity gauntlet.
Yeah, we got to see a Shaggy and Velma as well. But like there was one where someone had dressed up as Cruella de Vil and put their children in Dalmatian onesies and stuff like that. Like it wasn't, and even then there wasn't anyone from Cruella there, no. It was just something that was recognizable. It was fun. So I'm gonna say, like you say, that was a big part of it and it was really enjoyable.
I do regret not going in some type of cosplay. I mean, it probably wouldn't have worked. It would have worked better if it was just us two going, like, in terms of, like, the car, so your parents weren't, like, involved, because obviously we had to take into account, like, not leaving them stranded for ages, which we did end up doing, which we'll get into, but that's what we had to take into account before we knew. But I want literally next time there's something like this, I'm gonna do Gomez Adams, and no one can stop me. That's what I'm gonna do. So
Okay.
I do regret not going as something, but I wouldn't want. I'm a bit too like timid and try to actually go as a character because I'd be scared of like getting stuff shouted at me on the streets and like having water thrown at me or something. But if Gomez, I just rub off whatever mustache I'm rocking or whatever, and I'm just in a pinstripe suit. I look like I'm going to court or something. So it isn't too bad. So I'm gonna do that next time. And you can be Morticia.
I'm a very shy person too.
Well, you just look. Actually, you wouldn't be. It'd just be a black top, wouldn't it?
Maybe. Who knows?
So it's good. It's good.
Okay, so I guess kind of like first walking in was amazing. Like I said, we kind of walked in where you could see the guests along the bottom, you could see the stalls, you could see the stage, you could see the food. I think we walked into the room that you came to last as the first one.
Yeah.
Did
I
we?
can't remember now.
I think you kind of walked into the room
in...
where Gray was first.
Yeah.
And that was the last one we got to.
Yeah, that's odd.
You know where like the photos were?
Yeah.
Like the frames. I came through that door. So like by Gray, if you kept going that way, it was on that wall.
Yeah.
Like by the toilets.
What was, because it was your first Comic-Con, so what was your thoughts when you first kind of walked into that room?
I thought it'd be like really overwhelming. Like I know Comic-Con's like crazy. However, when I walked in, I mean it was like a lot, but it wasn't crazy and it wasn't manic. Yeah, it wasn't, I mean it was really busy, but it wasn't like overly busy for like I was expecting like so many more people sort of thing.
I think that's a great thing about the venue as well, because it was across 3 rooms.
Massive,
it kind of allowed you to separate from the other people a little bit and kind of make it more manageable. And not only that, but I think the room that Gray was in, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think like the parts that were overwhelming, like being around the Christopher Eccleston queue and things like that, were in different rooms, which kind of made the entire Great experience a lot more enjoyable, because it was kind of a more manageable place, even around the stalls and everything. I think because the first group of people that went in kind of got directed to that as the last room, it was actually one of the quieter ones.
I've got a life hack for people watching as well.
Okay.
Wherever we went in, I don't understand how you could go in somewhere different, because my directions with things are all off. If Millie wasn't with me, I'd still be in the International Centre, like running around doing whatever.
Did a kick jar, don't worry.
But there was a set of toilets as you first went in that had the biggest queue. But if you just carried on another literally like 10 seconds, there were abandoned toilets that you could just go.
You know, when you came through the entry door, did you go straight to your right or did you go more left?
When we went in through the entry door, we turned left and went all the way right down to the bottom, to the very end of the building.
I turn right.
Oh,
it was the same door, but because it joins, don't they? All 3 rooms join.
Yeah.
So you went left, I went right.
Okay, that kind of makes more sense.
I wonder why we did that. I think it's because I think it's because I was.
I think we were all kind of directed that way. I think when we first went in, not all the doors were open. Perhaps like they wanted to scatter people out a little bit, so the first room wasn't overwhelming. And I don't know. I'm kind of guessing that's why.
And I needed to run to the toilet as well.
Yeah, that's true. But you'd been in the car for a few hours, so you can forgive you.
Well, I hope so.
So I guess kind of like the first thing that all of us went to do was meet Gray, right?
Well, I was surprised at first because I thought that we'd accidentally overlooked like COVID protocol or whatever. But I like we got into the queue and I was like, oh crap, did we need like masks or something?
I think when we went to Lillard, it was around like when Comic-Cons were first reopening. So a lot of Comic-Cons had things in place like glass screens and stuff, even for photos. And I think For the Love of Horror was the first one where they were starting to relax. I think we had to do a COVID test before we left. And did you have to have a mask with you as kind of protocol? So, yeah. And we had sanitizer and stuff as well.
So I guess I'm glad that wasn't in place in Wales, but I guess, or in Telford. But that was one thing that first initially got me, the fact that this is like the first major thing that we've been to, I guess, not after the pandemic, but after all the protocols and stuff. Although we did that, that carnival, but that was outside. This inside thing, so I was a bit scared. But we got to Grey, and I think we must have been the third, third or fourth. Like,
okay, I got distracted as well when we first got to Grey.
Me too.
There was a security guard in front of us that reminded me of Marty Grabstein. So I was like, oh my gosh, and like completely distracted myself to the point where all of a sudden I was stood right in front of Grey and completely unprepared.
Well, I was unprepared because I'm so used to the idea that you go in and the talent or whoever it is going to be behind the desk kind of grinning or whatever, just signing autographs.
Well, yeah,
when she was stood up, like bent over the table, I was like, is that Grey? Like, is it like, I genuinely didn't know because I was like, oh, maybe she's on a break because there was no one on that side of the table. I
guess comparative wise, it was handled so differently for The Love of Horror because there he had his photos first. Matthew Lillard had his photos first, so there was already a queue that had kind of amassed at his table. So he ran through the queue like fist bumping everybody, then went behind his table, sat down and signed stuff over the table. Whereas, like you said, JayBee, it was like we were the first 3 people and she was stood up and she was like greeting everyone with a hug and stuff like that. It was an entirely different experience.
Yeah, I mean it it was daunting though, because at that point you can almost grin and bear it if you're nervous when they're like on the other side of the table, because it's like, oh, here's the item, thank you, and then you shuffle off. But because she like was right like looking at you, it was like, I need to say something more than just mumbling like a moron. And I was and I'm worried, right, because I've got
God.
my character is that I like Daphne, right? I'm a big Daphne fan. I'm a Daphnastic fan. And so when the first contact that I have is just butt in face, like bum, I was like, okay, I don't want to get hit by Millie, but I also don't know where to look. Like, do I like... So I was nervous. Before even meeting her. And then I was nervous.
I think it was kind of interesting because I was because like when we met Matthew Lillard, I was like so excited for you. I don't know why. Like I was kind of just stood to the side of you and let you speak to him and do the autograph and everything. Whereas with Grey, I expected him to be more excited than me.
Well,
but it kind of swapped and took over. That I was the one that was like talking to her and kind of there first, and kind of left you at the side.
I get scared in front of women, okay? Not only that, but I guess Matthew Lillard was almost more 2002 than animation, because we never really grew up on any Matthew Lillard voiced movies, right?
True.
Whereas, you know, like Matthew Lillard, the thing we did grow up on was the 2002, 2004 movie, and 2002 is like my jam. So maybe that's why. Whereas your favorite was, you know, Loch Ness Monster, which was
and favorite
great.
character is Daphne. So I guess it's kind of good to say that our experience was just that she was absolutely incredible. With this, we met her a few times this day. This was the first one. She like greeted us both with a hug. She was really chatty, like really talkative. She made a point of having a conversation with everybody. And signed the item, which was amazing. She told me I had nice hair. So naturally, for the next half an hour, I was just going, JayBee, Daphne said I had nice hair. JayBee, Daphne said I had nice hair. He must have got so wound up because I was so excited about it. And then she hugged us and we kind of left. And that was like our first interaction. And we went to look at the stalls. But then you arrived and you obviously got to meet Gray as well. So what do you remember from the first time you met her?
Well, like you said, I think out of all the guests, she was one of like you said she was interactive, she was standing up. I don't think I saw a time where she was sitting down, like not interacting. No. She was always in front of her desk, hugging people, always interactive. And she always had like something personal to say, like just to sort of thing. So when I met her, the first thing she picked up was my purple nails, and she pretty much had the same nail colour as me. So we were like fangirling over that. However, I was just completely starstruck. Like I had all these things I wanted to say, but because I just couldn't believe it was happening, I was just completely speechless, which is not like me whatsoever. But what did I get? I think I got my Funko Pop Daphne sign then. So she was really nice with that. And we were talking, and to be honest, I was that like starstruck. I was walking away without my Funko Pop being signed. And like the woman that was with her was like calling me back in front of all this queue. But it was incredible. She was so nice and kind. She was amazing.
Did your parents kind of wait to the side for that, or were they like in the queue with you? Like,
my mum recorded the whole thing.
Ooh,
I think that was the other thing that threw me off, because like mum and dad were there. Dad was like the bag man, so he had like this massive bag because I gifted her a piece of Daphne fan art that I made for her, and it was of her as like a Guess Who style with Guess Who Daphne. I also drew her all the other incarnations of the Daphnes that she's done. So in between all, I had to gift her that, and but because mine was the first gift on the table, I wasn't like convinced that she was taking gifts, so I had to like ask her, and she's like, yeah. But she was really nice, because then she put it up on her desk for the rest of the day, which I appreciated so much. It was amazing.
That was incredible artwork as well. It looked absolutely amazing. Like,
thanks.
I was looking at like the posters that she had on her desk that people could like, she could sign for people. I was kind of like, the artwork looks better. I'd want that. Like, I would be surprised if somebody hadn't like picked up on it all day. Just kind of like, yeah, I'd want that one.
I mean, that's something worth noting. I suppose, like, I don't know if we're rare instances or not, because every time we've been to one of these, every 2 times, it's always been for one person. Whereas I know that a lot of people like go for multiple people, or maybe it's just because it's a bit of a niche. Like if you're a Doctor Who fan, there's like 8 people you can go to see. But yeah, that was something.
Like you say, it was kind of more of a niche, and because I know like when my brother goes, he like normally sees about 3 people at least on one day. But if you think about it, I think that would have almost been a rush. Like he often struggles because of queues and things like that. Like if you look at the queues for somebody like Christopher Eccleston that was there, and you had to think about doing that 3 times and then pictures, it would be a bit of a problem. And that's something we found at Lillard as well. His queue was so long that like there was kind of like a security person that was like, okay, from here backwards, go away. There's not room for you to queue. Go and come back. And that's before Matthew Lillard had even finished doing his photos, because he was doing his photos first. And like when we left, we were there on the first day. There was, I'm pretty sure, didn't they have to give free tickets for people to get in the next day because he'd not had time to do all these autographs and everything?
I think they maybe just refunded them. I think people were upset.
Yeah, there was like a big problem because they just he couldn't get through everyone and couldn't get everything signed. So we were really fortunate, I think, in that I think they kind of downplayed Grace, I guess, that she was one of the last ones they announced. Her photo op was one of the last ones to be announced. And I feel like that almost played to our benefit, because if she'd have been busier, there could have been more problems.
And maybe she would have been less personal. I wouldn't have imagined so, though, 'cause she never seemed to tired out. Like you said, like she was stood up literally all
In
day.
heels all day. Impressive. Like,
Well, I don't know. I
genuinely.
thought they were boots. I don't know they were heels.
Heels can have a boots can have a heel.
We
They
don't
were
know.
both.
We'll look
And she
into
wore them
that.
on this Sunday as well, so she was in there
Yeah.
for 48 hours.
I'm
guess
sure I'd have given up and like had spare shoes in my bag by like the first 10 minutes.
I have minus points. It was a bit disappointing that, and this, I guess this is just more for like reselling or whatnot, but it was a bit of a shame that unlike at the Monopoly event thing, that there weren't like COAs or authentications there. That would have been perfect. And at this point now, I guess you'd have to find somewhere, if you did want to get them authenticated, like a third party, or I guess you could send it into JSA. I don't really know how that works. But in every other thing that we've been to, there's been that option. Even like GalaxyCon's sending service, you can tick the box on those JSA. Celebworks, you can get like an authentication. So for all like selling things, like selling that is not on our priority list for maybe years. I suspect that our grandkids will have to sell it when I'm dead and buried. But yeah, that was minus points, because it's like, why would they not do that? They could charge people a tenner, and I'm sure they'll make some more money from that. So that was a negative.
Okay, so I guess kind of for us, again, the next port of call was we started to look around some other shops and stores and things like that. And a big positive for me here is there was just more variety than the first Comic-Con we went to. So, and there was, for all Matthew Lillard was at the first one, we maybe saw 2 Scooby things. Whereas with this one, we saw a Dorbs Mystery Machine, we saw a jacket, there was a bracelet, there was a stocking, there was some Funko Pops as well. There was a lot more variety in terms of specific Scooby things, but also, yeah, the artwork, but also just other things that were like interesting. Like, we found some amazing Pokemon things that you liked. You know, those kind of globes that had Piplup in them and stuff. Like, I feel like there was a better variety here as well. And one thing that I did like is like, for the Love of Horror, you had 2 rooms. One was all stalls, and then one was all autographs and photographs. So there was just one room that was nothing but queues, and then one room that was all shopping. And it's kind of like, I almost liked how they integrated the 2 into the same thing, because it wasn't like everyone was rushing between the 2. You kind of had like a natural kind of scatter a bit.
I want to do For the Love of Horror again if they announce someone good, because I think that was affected by COVID. Without COVID, I think that they do that thing where you can hold a snake and a tarantula, and I want that for a vlog.
No.
Well, you don't need to do it, but I would love for you to like record me like holding.
I'm not going anywhere near it. You'd have to get Sophie's parents to do it. I'm not doing that.
Okay. Well, I think there'll be a good vlog. But yeah, and obviously it was busy, like we say, but it never felt like you were, at least in our experience there, like just stood waiting for someone to get out of the way for too long. Like for all it was busy, it wasn't like, oh, this is impossible to get to anything. Like everyone seemed to circle around quite quickly.
And I think attributes that is just how easy that Sophie managed to find us as well. Because do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you were all packed together, you couldn't move, and one person just blended into the next. Like there was more space, and obviously that was the natural, like again, the next part of the Comic-Con for us was of course meeting you.
You had to get shouted a few times, didn't you? Yeah, because you weren't listening, were you?
It wasn't that I wasn't listening. I was looking for Sophie. Like, I looked up, saw your mum saying Millie, and just thought that it was a mum who had a child called Millie. It didn't like register in my head, like, oh yeah, Sophie's actually like brought people with her. It's not just Sophie we're looking for.
Well, I
was like, you've never met Millie. Millie doesn't know what you look like. Why are you calling her?
Well, I'm never good socially, right? So, because I never found out Sophie's parents' names, for the whole day, it was just Mr. and Mrs. Sophie.
Yeah, I remember you saying Mrs. Sophie.
And so I don't know, but I'm a socially awkward person. Actually, it's not
I'm sure when we got back to the car, he was saying about how nice your dad was, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Sophie was lovely."
His name's Matthew.
Oh, like Matthew Lillard.
I know, yeah.
What's your dad called?
Tommy.
Oh my gosh.
That's the yeah, I know. I feel really awkward saying my dad's name. I don't know why. It's just like instinct that I just call him dad. I don't know why. I just genuinely find it awkward saying his name.
I call my dad Boomer, so it's okay. It's okay. We move. But yeah, it was great actually because it's so weird. I feel kind of different. I don't know. I don't know how to describe that dynamic because we've been on YouTube in the YouTube space for 2.5 years, maybe
And
3
never
years.
met anybody.
No, not once.
Not one.
We nearly did, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we nearly met Craig at if we went to
the 2002 screening, yeah.
no oh God, what was
Not
it? Wembley. Instead of moving here.
I don't know why I was thinking about the 2002
We never
screening. That was
ended
another
up-
thing we nearly went to.
And it was a weird dynamic, I've got to say, because I don't know how I come across over Zoom or in the interviews. And then I was like in that situation where I'm like, oh shit, like this is me.
Wait, did you just swear for the first time in a video?
No, it's not. I've said
Have you?
the only word I can't say is the F word, and obviously the N word and the C word, and other various words. But yeah.
So a few words.
But yeah, I was like, okay, so I'm socially awkward. I've got a pizza face. And that's the thing actually as well, because it's like a big secret of mine. Well, it's not a secret. I don't know. I feel stupid saying this, but I have a comfort here because underneath this layer of chubbiness, there's actually a very, very attractive man. Because I put on loads of weight at university, so I know that I've got the stuff, right? But the worst part about me, because of that weight gain, for me is my belly. So it's like, okay, no one's seeing it. It's safe. And then I was like, oh my God, for the first time, I've got legs. They exist. I've got a belly. It exists. I've got feet. They exist. What do I do now? It was a weird experience, but I want to do it again. We should do it tomorrow. But I'm sorry, it's just weird. It's not really a review. It's not relevant, but it was just my own personal emotional process. And now that I've got over it, I'm very happy. What about you? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's kind of like the first time I've ever met anybody. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to meet people. And like, it's almost like my brain works really strangely, where I'm like, unless a person knows me, they don't exist, if you know what I mean. Like, I can meet somebody, be weird, and it doesn't matter because I'm never going to see them or speak to them again. Whereas like when you know somebody but don't know somebody, if you know what I mean, it's like it matters more. My brain works very oddly. So yeah, I was like nervous but so excited, and it was just so amazing to meet you as well.
Yeah, I guess
It was surreal. Like you say, like we're on here like all the time. We've spent quite a lot of time together. So like when we actually met in person, it felt like we had like a lot of common ground sort of thing. So it wasn't like
in
awkward
like
at all.
5
There was
seconds.
no awkward interaction between us three, which was amazing.
Yeah, it was like 5 seconds, and then it was like, yeah, like this is normal. We speak all the time anyway.
Yeah. It was weird because I'm so used to social situations. Like first time meeting someone being awkward. Like things change so much. I say, right now we've had Milly's parents over, and it was their anniversary, and I made a joke about them busting the sofa together. Right? Okay, a bit off color, but I think back 3 years ago to the first time I met them. I don't think I said one word to either of them apart from, oh, yeah, hi. So when you think about the difference, but it was so weird with this because it literally went from, oh, hi, to normal. And so it was weird. I've never even like speed dated. So I've never like had an interaction, then met. Like, where did we meet? Did we meet online like before
no.
at all?
No.
See, it was mad. It's the closest that I've got to a Tinder date. That's a weird thing to say.
Yes,
But you know what I mean? It was.
that's a very weird thing to say.
If Tinder was Scooby friends, we should do that actually. We should make a Tinder for Scooby people.
You've kind of derailed this entire conversation
Well, it
and made it awkward and uncomfortable.
Well, that was good. So that was my experience with Tinder. Well, no, wasn't it like Tinder? You've done Tinder, right?
No, never.
Well, it's like Tinder. It's like
I'll take your word for it.
but friend Tinder.
I apologize for JayBee.
Friender. But it was great and what?
You're just trying to talk about it till it goes away.
Okay, well, okay. Here's what I'll say though about that. I was surprised that your parents left you alone with us because we could have been serial killers.
JayBee, you're making this really weird.
No, but we could have been serial killers, so I'm glad that we weren't. What else is there to talk about? So we went around to the shops together. Okay, here's a positive. I love Funko Pops. I am a Funko addict through and through. Maybe more so with sodas now, but with the other, like For the Love of Horror, it kind of felt like it was Funko Shop, Funko Shop, Funko Shop, Funko Shop, which I've got nothing against. And there were a lot of Funko things here, but just the variety was incredible. Like, I did like how there was a bit more diversity within them. And also, there were like guests doing, like, not just at a Comic-Con, but there were guests running stalls. So you'd have, like comic book artists actually having their own store. And I really loved that. I wish we'd done like the Rick and Morty one, but I love that. I want to open up a shop. Here's what I was saying, and I was saying this, I think with Sophie's dad, when we were there. Sophie, you should do a shop at a Comic-Con with your artwork. That would be absolutely incredible.
It would be. Like, I see things on like Etsy and Vinted where people have made their own Scooby stuff. And I see it and I'm like, Sophie could do this. Like, I just look at stuff like, oh yeah, Sophie could do that though.
Thanks.
You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know. Kind of like I look at other people's stuff and I'm like, prefer that Sophie did it.
I mean, you want about the diversity of the stores, like obviously they had like all the prints, which I've got loads of prints, but they had like a whole crochet store, didn't they? And like obviously at the moment I'm doing like my Scooby-Doo crochet line. So I was like thinking about all the things I could be selling with that. So I mean, I've already just finished the Hex Skills today, the crochet line. So they'll be coming in the new year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And like not only that, but you made your own Daphne dress, and then there was a stall where they'd made a Scooby-Doo jacket and stuff like that. Like there was so many things that like you could have done just as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, but it'd be great. You could like find out who the guests were and then do that, because that's the one thing that I'm always surprised at when we go to, well, in the 2 times that we've went to that none of the shops seem to take guests into account. Like if you get there and you look at your guest stall and say like if we didn't bring any Scooby stuff and we went to Grey and we didn't like any of the art prints or like the photo prints that she had there, like I would imagine like, or maybe a bit of regret, like if you had a damaged Funko Pop or maybe there was a new Funko Pop. I'm surprised that some of the stalls don't look at the guests and go, right, I'm going to order a load of this stuff in and display that for like last minute people that want to get stuff signed.
Not only that, but if you know the layout and you'll know who you like, you knew who you were near, you could really kind of take advantage of that as well. But like as you were saying, if what you got, say it had rained in the queue and what you brought to get signed got damaged, like the only thing that you could have really used was there was a mystery machine in a box.
Which I regret not getting that, to be fair, but it was like 30 quid.
I'm kind of happy with what we did get.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like
go on.
Sorry, I know, I was just gonna say, I feel like a mystery machine in a box, you can order that online, whereas like the prints that we got, the Scooby-Doo bracelet, the stocking, like it was all things that you can't just find because it's made specifically by people for events like that.
Did you lose that bracelet?
No, it's in the bag of stuff we bought. You just didn't include it in the
No,
video.
I didn't include because that was the thing.
I did wonder that. I thought, what happened to the bracelet?
I put everything in a bag for JayBee to do the video, and he was like, "Oh, you've lost it." I was like, "No, I haven't. I definitely put it in the bag. It's there."
Yeah, I was the only one that didn't get the matching bracelet, so I felt left out. We should get matching like tattoos or something. It's freezing. So let me think. What else is there? So
We then went. Okay, is that when we then ended up kind of just sat in a grey waiting for the photo, which
Yeah.
was kind of one of the more unfortunate parts of the day because the photo was delayed 2 hours, and we'd kind of done everything else first, so we just kind of sat around for a couple of hours waiting, but it passed quite quickly.
Well, I'll say it was Grey's especially was extremely poorly managed. I don't know what they were doing. It was like for some parts of it was like an episode of Faulty Towers.
Yeah,
Like
so-
everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
It was meant to be at 2:30, so we turned up for 2:30. I went in to ask the people organising in that photo studio when it was, and they were like, "We don't have any record that a photo is happening with Grey at this studio today." I was like, "Okay, well, the Instagram says it is. We've paid for tickets that
the
it
big
is."
billboard outside Studio 3 had it listed,
Yeah.
and it was the
Yeah.
one from Instagram.
And
And I
she
mean, I know
showed-
on the Sunday they didn't list it at all, but at least it was listed for Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, she showed me the book that she had as the person managing the studio, and she didn't have it written down anywhere. So, and then she kept referring to Grey as a man. She was like, "Oh, I don't know when you'll get your photo with him." I was like, "Do you not even know who the guests are? What is that?" So she was like, "Anyway, I'll speak to one of the people who are in charge of getting the guests from like A to B and see what their kind of schedule says that they're doing with Grey." And so anyway, we just kind of I just ended up sat there waiting, and no one came back to tell me what was happening.
Well, we were stood there.
So
waiting,
I
you were
ended
one of.
I ended up just coming back to find you when because she was like, "I think it's going to be at 4:30, and then they kind of more vocally announced that it was 4:30. So we just kind of sat around waiting. But I guess because of where we were waiting, like Murray from Stranger Things and stuff like that just walks straight by you, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's that
Also,
person."
We were sat right by Grey as well, so you could just like watch it autograph everybody's work and stuff, and like collectible. So it wasn't. I mean, if it was like in a different room, not by Grey, it'd probably be a bit boring. But because like that was interactive, like yeah.
And I
could have stayed there for like 8 times the time. Really, I think she put on a good show for us there.
And I think because we were kind of so excited and quite an adrenaline high as well, we didn't need to worry about food and drinks. But I guess kind of perhaps one negative would have been if we did. Like, I know when your parents went over, the queue was meant to be about 45 minutes. Like, so they called you just like, "Do you want anything? Because this is going to be a long queue." So I guess that's the only other thing, but like just so high on adrenaline for that.
Yeah, we didn't do any food or drinks. I'd imagine that they'd have been expensive as well.
Yeah.
But I was determined not to do anything that would make me put on more weight before the photo. Like, I was actively determined. So the photo itself was again a bit shambolic. Like again, like it was more than 2 hours really. I think in actual reality, we got let into the room maybe 2 hours and a quarter.
No, it was definitely 2.5.
2.5. And then it was so weird.
Yeah, so like the guest that was coming after her for photos was Mark Shepherd. He was waiting in there while she was still signing photos at her desk. They'd brought all his people in for the photos, like the premier passes, the VIP passes, general entry. Everyone was in this room waiting when they brought us in to get our pictures with Grey. The guest was just like having to go mingle with everybody, kind of like waiting himself. And then we got like rushed through in front of all these people that had just been queuing there with platinum passes and stuff, waiting for a picture with Mark. And Grey kind of got swooped in as well to take like the 12 pictures or whatever it is that she had, just because it hadn't been, advertised well or organized well for her. And then just all like flew back out again, all while this other guest was having to wait, and while all the people like going to see him were waiting.
Yeah.
But again, her photos were so good. I think JayBee, you commented on it. I don't know if you did as well, but like looking through her pictures, like all the other guests were so generic, kind of stood there in the same pose for everybody. You know what I mean? Don't pull that face.
Beef.
Like just like it was like they did a similar pose for everybody, whereas like she had different pictures with everybody. There was different stances, there was different poses, there was different expressions. Like it was amazing.
And we did pick the best day for her outfit. Like I know I said that yesterday, and you took an attitude.
I'll take an attitude again, you know.
No, but I think we definitely, because it was more Daphne than the Sunday one. So I'll say that much. Like we did pick the best day.
I mean, Sundays gave me 13 Ghost vibes. I know she hasn't done that series, but still.
That kind of more jumpsuit. Yeah, I see that.
It wasn't it. Like it wasn't a bad drip. Is that what the kids are calling outfits nowadays? It wasn't a bad drip, but it wasn't on the level. Like I couldn't have sat next to that for 2 hours. Well, no, that's on.
You're a simp.
What?
You're a perv. There's multiple issues with you in general. Okay, the photo collection was really well organized. Well, except we were waiting for Studio 3 and they got dropped off at Studio 2. But I mean, like the turnaround was really quick.
Who was it? Was it ATF that showed us the photos, or was it someone else?
I think it was just someone else who recognized maybe Sophie on the picture because of her amazing outfit that day. There was like your photos over here.
It was after you anyway. I was like, I don't know what you're on about. And they wanted Millie anyway.
Oh, Gray was great though, because she managed to get from the photo, like, and by the time we collected it, she was already back at the table doing autographs. Like, I couldn't imagine. Like, she worked so hard that day, and obviously, it's like you have to respect it. And probably there's like worse jobs that you could be doing for that amount of money, right? There's probably like construction site workers that are freezing cold, working 8 times harder for a fraction of like the money or whatever. But in terms of the job that she was given that day, she understood the assignment.
Yeah,
she did huge shout out to her.
She did do really well. And of course, then we went back to get our picture signed, which was again another incredible moment. This could be like one of my favorite moments of the day, like top 3, because the hair thing, meeting Sophie, and this as well, probably my top 3. We asked her to sign our picture, and she was like, "Who do I sign it to?" And I was like, "Oh, JayBee and Milly." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, so that's who you two are!" Like, oh, it's so great to put a name to a face. That's amazing. So if I'm signing this, it's like JayBee, not just the letters JB, right? And like I'd even remembered that detail. I could have like screamed on the spot. I was so excited. Like for me, that was amazing and shows so much about her as a person as well, that she like remembered that detail about how JayBee does that with his name. I just couldn't believe it. I was so excited. I can't like put into words how amazing I thought that was.
It was a bit odd because they started like charging for selfies at
halfway
some
through
point in the day. Which I guess is normal, like stuff changes. Like I think Matthew Lillard, like, or at least his representative, upped his autograph price halfway through for The Love of Horror. But it was a bit weird not to have that consistency. I guess it could be like maybe there weren't maybe because everyone was getting a selfie for free before, it was kind of like, well, there's no incentive to do a photo, and because so little people have paid for photos, like that needs to be made up in some way. But when we went to do because it wasn't really a selfie that we did, so maybe there's like a loophole, but we weren't charged for that other one, were we? So
no, but we had our pictures signed, so I guess they know that we paid for a picture.
I mean, this is what I was thinking. When you book your ticket online, like before I went off the page, I screenshot the 2 QR codes because I got 2 autographs. But then also in the email, they give you like a confirmation one. So technically I had 3 autographs. So when I got my Funko signed, I just used like my first autograph from like the original page. So I didn't do the confirmed email. But then when I went for the second one with you guys, I used like the confirmed one. But I do wonder if the second autograph would take it as a third one. So maybe I'd get like 3 autographs. Like 1 free. I didn't try it out, but it did cross my mind.
No, that would have been interesting to know. It's kind of strange that they did that. And also, I don't know, like the person that was with her didn't seem that clued up on stuff.
No, she wasn't,
because
like...
there was somebody in front of us who was like, "Oh yeah, I've already paid for this," and she was like, "Oh, let me just take a picture of it with my phone." And I'm a bit like, were you just taking a picture of it? Do you know what you're doing?
She scanned mine in twice, my 2 QR codes.
I don't know what she was. Because that's one thing. At the For the Love of Horror one, it was almost like they were almost acting as an agent to whoever it was there. So they could deal with fan stuff and then anything that's to do with price. Like the talent, I don't know what to call them, but the celebrity in question, the guest, would just treat everyone the same. It was just them doing fan interaction. But everything to do with money, rules, what you can do, can't do, all of that was on the representative. It was like they were a bodyguard, they were an agent. But with her, it was kind of like she was just Grey's. This isn't like an insult. It was like kind of Grey's auntie along for the ride, and that's a compliment because it was she was not scary to approach. Right, it wasn't Grey and here's this like big heavy guy that like scares the living daylights out of you. It was like a very approachable woman, but it was a bit unclear like what she was there to enforce or not enforce, but it all worked out.
It did. And then that kind of concluded the day. We got that amazing picture all together, and of course you got to meet with Grogan and she signed your picture as well.
Yeah.
I'll say the board they used,
it's like a blur. Yeah, I forgot about it then.
Because they had 2 of the same photos.
Oh yeah, the frame that we put it in. Like you say, it was 2 of the same picture of Daphne, which was a bit like but then her photo was so last minute that I guess there was limited preparation time for them, to be fair.
And I think here's another life hack. So we went at the same time as Sophie to get the frame. We had to pick up a frame and Sophie had to get a frame. But Sophie was given the display frame. So if I didn't suggest the pre-order, pre-getting one, I think they could have run out. So that's a life hack. If in doubt, pre-order a frame.
That being said, if you get in the display, check the back.
Oh yeah.
And I guess something else that's kind of worth mentioning is you got to take yours with you. We left ours behind a counter.
Yeah.
And we were queuing for half an hour.
Was it really?
It was.
That's when I left you.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh.
It was a long queue because there was only, and this is where I'm going to sound awful, there was only 3 people behind the counter. One of them was like making the frames up. One of them was serving people and putting the pictures in the frames and stuff like that. And there was one man just stood there leaning on the table. And I ended up being a little bit of I just ended up stood staring at him till he helped me. Because there was only 2 people working. I just genuinely stood and started staring at him, and then he came over to help us. I was a bit like, yeah, I feel sorry for the other 2 people working with you. You've been really lazy there.
I thought it was
I'm a bad person.
It was just a dad and mum and a teenager. It was like a family there. They were very slow, actually. I think they could have done it a bit quicker.
The young girl was working so hard, bless her. She was amazing. But like I say, the kind of older guy there was just stood leaning on the table and doing nothing when there was this huge queue.
Well, that's meant for you, isn't it?
I did think for the Grey one, did they do any other photos? Because I said Grey for Daphne, because they had the Daphne ones, but they wouldn't have a Zoom or anything. I didn't see them on the back.
No, they didn't.
Ooh, and
with Lillard as well, they only had his horror stuff. They didn't have any pictures of Shaggy you could choose to have in there or anything.
We still haven't changed that. We probably won't, to be honest, but it was all Scream stuff. That's something that I like, though, actually. The fact that it was so multi-fandom. It would have been nice to have a massive meet and greet or meet up with nothing but Scooby fans. But the fact that we had someone in some full-on warrior princess cosplay that was kind of queuing with us, it was nice to get that multi-fandom aspect, and I liked it a lot. There's so many things I could have got Grey to sign that was multi-fandom, but Spectacular Spider-Man, Billy and Mandy, but obviously Daphne's the goat.
So, like I said, that kind of concludes the day. At that point, we went out to meet my parents and go home. So, I guess I've said my top 3 moments of the day. It was the Daphne liking my hair, Daphne remembering JayBee and Milly, and of course, number 1, meeting Sophie. So, JayBee, what's your top 3?
Top 3.
Put you on the spot. You didn't. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, well, I'm worried because I don't want you to I don't want you to take an attitude. So I guess 3rd place, it wasn't Gray noticing my top, my t-shirt, right? Because that's instantly eyes to the belly, and that's exactly what I wanted to avoid. So third place, I think, was just not messing up in front of like Gray. I didn't like, you know what I mean? There wasn't any like wardrobe malfunctions. I didn't fall over. Like I didn't like wet myself. Like it was just a somewhat awkward but relatively successful interaction. Second, gosh, you know what? Second, I think just shopping in general. I'm addicted. See, this is like not stereotypically guy, but I love shopping. I'm addicted to shopping.
You're more of a shopping person than me.
Yeah,
Like, we do kind of split typical gender roles.
Love shopping so much. Like, and it's not like clothes shopping or shoe shopping, but it put me in a toy store, the toy shop, and I go crazy. I could live in shops. I could live in shopping malls. It's fantastic. So all the stores that they had there was such a treat to look around. And even if I didn't have £1 billion to buy everything, just seeing interesting items that's a bit rare. You don't often see them in your average UK shop. Like, because I remember like disappearing off a few times and then running back to you two and like, hey, I found a flocked Huckleberry Hound for GoPro. Like, just stuff like that was amazing. And of course, number one, meeting Sophie. Even though I was a bit sad that I'm like 2 foot, I was very happy. So that's definitely number one. What about Sophie? And just because you don't need to put us as number one, like you can put, but what's your top 3 moments? Not including Milly.
It's all got to be like number one. It was most like surreal day. It was like amazing. So I mean, out of everything, it was obviously meeting Gray, meeting you guys, and getting like my things autographed like with her in person, so I don't have to like send off for them. So those 2 are definitely the best.
They were good. It was a great day. I mean, I guess if we have constructive points, I guess my 3.
I've given nothing but constructive.
I'd say my 3 constructive points. Well, I think it was like amazing and an incredible day. I think the organisation for Gray's photograph, I just feel like the company didn't do her justice, like announcing her so late and not having a photograph scheduled properly and all that kind of thing was a bit of a shame. I guess another one I'd kind of say is when we went to the For Love of Horror, you got your picture in like a cover. So if you didn't want to buy the frame, your picture was protected till you got home, because it was in like a brochure for the event and it had your QR code scanner on it. You didn't have to buy it separately, did you, JayBee?
No, that's
whereas with
point.
this event you do have to buy it separately. I think
it's like £6 to get the digital download.
Yeah, so when you went to the For Love of Horror, you just got it in this nice little folder that had the name of the event on it, promoted the photo company, and you got the free download. So I'd say that would probably be my second place one. And I guess the only other one would maybe be, for like the really popular guests, just kind of like, I hate using the word popular, the guests that kind of had the long queues, just like maybe better placement of them, because you couldn't exactly get to all the stalls for the places that had the really big queues.
Yeah. So what was that then? Top 3 stinkers?
Not stinkers, just things that could maybe be improved upon. And I mean, if I really wanted to like pick a 4th one, I'd say they could replace every other guest with somebody from Scooby, but like Frank Welker could have been there. But
yeah, well, then three unhappinesses. I've mentioned them all. I would have loved an option for a certification of authenticity. Oh God, this is me. I'm not gonna count that actually. So yeah, certification of authenticity. That's first and foremost. Oh gosh, I don't know. Like obviously the photo, there's like a multiple ways that could have been improved. But I think just scheduling that would have worked out. But again, because we were just there for one person, like it could have been like, if for some people a 2-hour delay on one photo op could actually mean, oh wow, now we can check out this Q&A, now we can go to this person for an autograph. So
not only that, but if you wanted Mark Sheppard, you could have missed Gray because they'd already put his queue in. And then, do you know what I mean? Just
Mark Sheppard, actually, he has like an honorary shout out because he was actually being so friendly to people.
I felt sorry for him,
Well,
because I'm so sorry, I've got a bad habit of interrupting people. Like he was out seeing the guests, and I don't know if you know, he was trying to like work out where his line started. So he was trying to talk to some of the grey people as she'd walked in at the top. So all the grey people were like, she's there. And as he was coming to walk past to speak to some of us, and it was like all kind of detracted towards grey.
Although I will
And I was a
say,
bit like,
I
oh.
like Mark Sheppard because he was in Doctor Who. He was like one of the presidential people in the Matt Smith era. And he's also like a main guy in Supernatural, and there's that kind of Scooby-Natural crossover. But like he wasn't, and this is, I think people do have a tendency to be quite fake. He wasn't just like lingering around the Access people in the hopes that someone would clip it on TikTok and hashtag Mark Sheppard's a great guy will trend. Like he was making his way around everyone, so it was nice to see that.
And he could have just been stood in where the people were taking the photos, sat down waiting.
He was a good guy. He was a great
guy.
And
I overheard him having a conversation with a little kid, like kind of telling him the age that his children are now and how that compares, and he was kind of using his hand to show him how tall that each one of his children were now and that kind of stuff.
I remember that, yeah.
He came across really nice.
That's great.
So my third stinker.
Stinker sounds mean, JayBee. I wasn't doing this to be mean, I was being constructive.
It's just that man, that dreadful man at the photo place, like the guy that was taking, he wasn't doing anything.
Oh, the guy that was when we were getting it framed and he was just stood there.
Yeah, that guy needs firing.
How'd you notice that I wasn't being rude? I didn't mean to be rude.
I was getting wound up.
I just kind of looked at him like,
yeah, love and respect to everyone, but that guy needs firing.
I mean, the like I say, the younger one working there was working so hard. And she's been so professional as well. Like she was holding every frame at once she'd done it to make sure that the people that were getting the photos framed were happy, as opposed to just like throwing it in the bag after she'd done it and everything. Like she was working so hard. She was just kind of let down.
Yeah.
So
I guess that was kind of
your top three. Your bottom three.
That's kind of it. What would Sophie's bottom three be, or
if you have a bottom three?
I pretty much agreed with all of you, but overall it was really, it was put together really nicely. I think the only downfall, like you said, was the photographs. Now, as we were only there to see Grey, and we had time on our hands, it wasn't that much of a problem. However, if people had to like get to places, not only did they have to wait, but nobody really knew what time she was going to be anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And like even you asked that woman that was by Grey, like what time are the photos meant to be, and they had no idea.
Yeah, and that was the person who was meant to be sat with Grey all day.
Yeah,
she's like, oh, she's going to the toilet and then she's going to do a photo, and then she came back and started signing things. And
was it the photo or the autograph that wasn't available for pre-order immediately?
It was the photo
that wasn't available.
Yeah, the autograph.
See, that would explain it, because for all she was scheduled on the brochure?
No, she wasn't in the brochure. She was only on the screen.
So that had treated. I don't know if they'll want me to say who it was that told me, so I won't. But I was told that she wasn't meant to be doing them that day, but she only was able to because the Mighty Ducks cancelled. So I don't know how true that is. It seems a bit bizarre that a guest wouldn't be doing photographs. But yeah, that's what I heard. So it was a bit of a SH1T show as far as the photograph goes. See, I don't know why I just said it like that, because I can say that word now. But it was a bit of a sugar show. But yeah, it is what it is. It was a great day. We definitely had the best outfit for Grey on that day. The camera quality was fine, right? Like, we weren't packed in like cattle. It was a nice occasion. I think it was fantastic. I guess here's another constructive thing, but I don't know. It's not on the event at all, I don't think anyway. But the parking meter outside broke supposedly, so there was a kerfuffle about that. But yeah, that's just me being cantankerous.
I mean, one thing I will say is, for all we've given this constructive feedback, for Gray herself, I don't have a single bit of constructive feedback. She was incredible. She was the hardest working guest in there all day. She was on her feet every single second. Like, she was incredible. And like, she was so complimentary, so nice, so personal with everybody as well. Like, I know there was one person who we'd spoken with, like, who just went up to talk to her, like, who'd already had their photo, their autograph, and she made time just to talk to them. Like, she couldn't have been any nicer. And yeah, absolutely incredible. Like, I'd say she came across perhaps the best Comic-Con guest in there.
Yeah, she didn't look miserable for 1 second, you know. And like,
yeah, smile.
And I struggle very badly sometimes with staying positive and stuff. Like yesterday was one of the worst days of my entire life. And we also recorded an interview, as you guys know, and I was just out of it. But so, like, she could have had a bad day or something, but like, she was smiling all day. Like, I don't think I've had like a time where I've actively been like, hey, but she managed to do it. I couldn't imagine that. So, huge shout out to Gray, and I hope she comes back soon and that the UK is not scared her off. But I don't know how nice Telford is.
When we were doing selfies with her, like, we do like the standard like smile, but then she was like instigating like, or do like a pose, like a scared face, or like do that. Like, she was there to do like do more than what we just asked for her to do. So like, she was like on it. She was amazing.
She was just such a bundle of energy. It was amazing.
I couldn't have done that without like drugs or something.
I'd say like rating the day itself, like she herself was like 10 out of 10. Ideal, perfect guest, and wouldn't have changed a single thing.
Oh, one other thing, a criticism. Was it like in the middle they had like the halo thing that the massive queue was around her desk?
Yeah, like she got blocked off, didn't she?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like on the Sunday they moved her booth to the middle section and then halo to the end by where she was.
Oh, okay. I've not seen that.
So her, because like, yeah, that was it. When I first went to meet her, first thing, we ended up in the halo queue because we didn't like, it was like just crowding her queue. And then when we asked her, like, oh no, we're queuing up for Halo, so then we like cut in front and like to this little queue by Gray. But yeah, on the Sunday they changed it over because the queue just kept getting bigger and bigger.
That makes sense that they'd have done that. But and I think it's a shame that like the queue did cut off, because there was one point where she had no one there and it was when the queue was blocking her. So I kind of feel like maybe it did hinder her a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for all we were there for Gray, I guess it was good that there were a lot of like awesome names there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, the one like you could pretty much see everybody the way the layout was of the desks. Like I said, though, my brother's tickets originally, so he wanted to see what's the wrestler called?
Like Stone Cold Steve Austin or something. Or that, what was his, like Victor Belfort or something?
I can't remember what his name
Some
was.
WWF wrestler.
Anyway, I managed to just stand at the end and get a video of him to send to my brother. The only person who was queue you just couldn't see the end of was Christopher Eccleston.
And Nick Frost.
Yeah, we didn't manage to catch.
I didn't see Nick Frost at all.
We managed to see everybody from The Walking Dead.
Yes.
That was cool.
Apparently when we were doing our photos, the person coming out was George Takei.
Oh.
So my parents seeing George Takei like walk past. So
see,
that
that's a fair point, you know. If we did go to Edinburgh, we were there to see 4 people originally.
That's
so
a lot.
There was like John Chalice, who died before the event, like would have taken place anyway. Alicia Silverstone, of course, you know, like Heather Jasper Howe. Dan Vogler, I think we booked in to see, but he cancelled before the event was even cancelled. And of course, you know, Frank Welker. So we were there for a lot of people if we'd have gone.
Yeah, I guess my recommendation
It would have been interesting to know how that would have gone.
Yeah, I think my recommendation would always be to prioritize who you want to see.
I want to do a hotel room next time we go, you know. I know that
we had for Edinburgh, like no, we lost the hotel and everything.
But the only reason why I want is because I've got a vision of a hotel bar being fun. But I don't even drink, so I don't know what I've got in my head. But I want to do a hotel bar or something.
Hot chocolate.
Oh, don't give me that. That's like good. I like an energy drink.
Which is pretty much the only thing it's the weather for at the minute. Is like hot chocolate. Well, yeah. It's freezing. And that's my only other complaint. I came back from it with a cold that I still have.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have it. We must be very distant people.
I've been like waking up in pain in my throat. It's been that bad.
So, because this is a review, I'm gonna smash or pass Wales Comic Con Telford Takeover 2022, and I'm gonna smash it. What about you, Milly?
It is a definite smash.
What about you, Sophie?
Of course, it's a smash.
So that's 3 smashes for Wales Comic Con. 1,000,000,000%. Like, I've started following them on social media now, and as things progress, like if there's like a massive Scooby guest, that's like, I would love to do it again. I think it's at a situation where it's ideal to get to. Like, obviously, there's some that for me personally, even if I had all the money in the world, that are kind of out of the question. So London, I think, would be a pain in the neck to do. But anything in Manchester,
Telford, Wales,
even Liverpool, there's like a
Liverpool,
decent ones in Liverpool I'd do. So I would definitely do it again. But who knows? Who knows? I could die tonight. But I want to do it again, and I want to do a hotel. I want to do a hotel. I want to go to a hotel bar with everyone. Oh, a night out in that location.
We've gone over the issues here of nobody drinking, JayBee. It's like, go out for a meal, dinner.
You don't need to drink to have a night out. Don't you think though, we like go there, maybe have like the night before, we do like Prinkies, and then like we go to the event, and then we have like a night out, and
well, we'll see what guest gets
no.
announced and when they get announced.
Get like
next.
T-shirts printed for it, like hashtag, I don't know, SOP crew or something, 2023 Malia for life or something. I don't know, like something like that. So yeah, I guess that concludes this.
A very lengthy way of concluding this video, JayBee. I will say.
You can find Sophie's social media in the description. Again, we've been praising her artwork for this entire video. So if you want to see that for yourself, then please follow that account down below, and like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee and Milly. And we'll see you next time.